both parties were like, okay, it's fine. And they were going to get their 7%. No matter what. Nope. That goat needs to be killed. We need to kill a kid's pet. Hi, Jeff Marsacci, the Plain English Attorney, and we're going to try something a little bit different today. We're going to talk about a controversy that's going on in the news and some of the legal implications around it. So I got to admit, this story kind of enraged me when I read it last night, and I decided I'm going to do a video and we're going to move it up just because it's a current story. So we're going to be moving around some of our other videos. So the title of this one from reason.com is Police Traveled 500 Miles to Seize Girl's Pet Goat for Slaughter. A 9-year-old backed out of a deal to sell her pet goat for slaughter. Local officials and sheriff's deputies used the power of the state to force her to go through with it. A federal civil lawsuit alleges that sheriff's deputies from Shasta County, California, traveled across the state to seize a little girl's, quote, beloved pet goat, unquote, for slaughter. New reporting details how they may have violated the law in doing so. According to the lawsuit, in June 2022, Jessica Long and her daughter, who was 9 years old and only referred to as EL in the lawsuit, attended the Shasta District Fair. The fair includes a junior livestock auction in which members of 4-H youth programs exhibit farm animals they've raised. At the end, the animals are sold to the highest bidder to be slaughtered for meat. The fair takes 7% of the sale, and the kids get to keep the rest. In April, Long purchased her daughter a goat, whom she named Cedar. From then until the fair, EL fed and cared for Cedar every day. She bonded with the animal just as she would have bonded with a puppy and loved him as a family pet. Well, all right, if in terms of livestock and raising that, I'm not a farmer, don't have a background, but you don't name animals that are going to be food. But look, she's 9 years old. 9 years old. Okay. At the fair, State Senator Brian Dahl was Cedar's highest bidder, pledging $902. But by then, EL had second thoughts about sending her four-legged friend to die. She and her mother tried to withdraw Cedar from the competition. So, withdrawing from the competition beforehand. And they were told that the rules forbid it. So, even before that. After the auction, EL refused to leave Cedar's side, sobbing next to him in his pen. At this point, before money had changed hands, Long and her daughter sought to terminate the contract. And, this is an important thing, California law allows that a contract of a minor may be disaffirmed. So that's what was going on. No. The money hadn't changed hands. She didn't want to do it anymore. They wanted to back out of the contract, which under California law, she was allowed to do. If you think it's important for educational videos like this to get out there, then please help us out by subscribing to the channel. So, Long told representatives at the fair that she would happily pay the 7% fee that would have resulted from the sale, and in this case, that would have been $63.14, and took Cedar home. Anticipating controversy, she later took the goat to another farm in Sonora County, more than 200 miles away. But in the following days, B.J. McFarland, livestock manager of the Shasta District Fair and Event Center, the state agency that runs the fair, called Long and told her that if she did not return Cedar, he would have her charged with felony grand theft. Okay. Let's talk about that for a second. Felony grand theft is if she stole someone else's property. it didn't become their property. It didn't end up going to that state representative because the contract was disaffirmed by a minor child. Therefore, it wasn't that representative's property. It wasn't. It was still with the 9-year-old girl under law. So how can you charge the mother with stealing property that she's holding on behalf of her daughter? But hey, that's the way they decided they wanted to handle it, is to threaten the mom who's trying to save her daughter's pet goat with a felony. Okay. So she offered to let the Fair Association keep the entire $902, but McFarland would not budge. She also reached out to Dahl, the representative, who agreed he's not going to resist her efforts to save Cedar from the slaughter. He was fine with it. So even if the contract had gone through, the owner's like, no, okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not going to do that. So in an email to the Fair Association, Long wrote of her efforts to make it right with the buyer and the fairgrounds, mentioning Dahl's support and offering to pay for the goat and any other expenses I caused. She couldn't have done and offered more to make right what is a civil contract dispute. Okay? But Melanie Silva, CEO of the Fair Association, was unmoved. Silva wrote back that while she was, quote, not unsympathetic, unquote, to EL's plight, quote, please understand the fair industry is set up to teach our youth responsibility and for the future generations of ranchers and farmers to learn the process and effort it takes to raise quality meat. Making an exception for you will only teach youth that they do not have to abide by the rules that are set up for all participants. Okay. Your effing state fair rules mean crap compared to actual law. And in this case, it was a minor was allowed to disaffirm the contract and say no, and back out of it, which they did, and the, quote, aggrieved party wouldn't. But no, they needed to teach this 9-year-old a lesson and kill her pet. Okay. She concluded that it's out of my hands and that Long would need to bring the goat back to the Shasta District Fair immediately, and I'm adding this in, so they could kill it properly. According to records received by the Sacramento Bee, Silva then emailed an official with the state's Department of Food and Agriculture saying that an organizer of a local community barbecue has contacted her lawyers regarding the theft of the goat donated to the barbecue. Whoa. So she made this up? There was no allegation that the organizer of a barbecue was complaining about the theft. In fact, the mom had talked with a state rep who bought it and said, no, it's fine. So they just made that crap up. 2 weeks after the fair, Shasta Sheriff's Detective Jeremy Ashby sought and received a search warrant directing 2 officers to drive more than 500 miles in order to seize Cedar and return him to Shasta County. The warrant authorized a search of a goat rescue in Napa County, but Cedar was not there. Okay, so that's what the warrant said. Okay, this is where you get to search. So even if all of this wasn't ridiculous and based on this incorrect information from that official with the Agriculture Association, okay, they didn't find them there. So I'm sure the sheriff's deputies just turned around and went back, right? No. They drove over to Sonoma County and took Cedar from a farm, even though that property wasn't listed on the warrant. So these cowboys just decided, oh, screw the warrant. We need to get this goat. And, well, they're claiming that the owner of the farm gave them permission. Well, what do you do when 2 armed sheriff's deputies show up and say, we're here to get a goat? That's not even his property. That was just being housed there. So, okay. So, yeah, in a court filing, the officers contended that no warrant was necessary to retrieve Cedar in the Sonoma farm, as they had consent from the property owner to retrieve the goat. Yeah, but it wasn't his property either. In an amended complaint filed in February, Long claims the officers were then required by law to hold Cedar or deliver him to the magistrate. So this was, quote, seized property in a contract dispute, which they shouldn't have been brought into in the first place. The whole idea, if it is a contract dispute and the police are involved at all, it's to secure the property. Nope, that's not what they did. They, quote, independently deemed unknown third parties to be the owners of Cedar and delivered him back to the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds that wanted this goat dead, no matter what, come hell or high water, doesn't matter what the parties in the contract agreed to or whatnot, that it was legally disaffirmed by a minor. They wanted this goat dead to teach everybody a lesson. That was my commentary. Perplexed, Long is not certain what actually happened to Cedar. Quote, at this time, we don't have that specific information and we can only speculate, her attorney told the Bee. While it hasn't been confirmed as a factual matter, we believe the goat Cedar has been killed. Well, of course, they needed to do this to a pet goat. It didn't matter. Look, if it was livestock and this is exactly what was happening and the contract was valid and not disaffirmed, and the parties were on board, and even if they went through with the contract and the goat changed hands and then they changed their minds, all right, that's a different matter. No, all of the parties to this contract except the fair, which was going to be reimbursed for their share of it no matter what. Nope, they needed this goat dead because they needed to teach this 9-year-old a lesson. Yeah. Long filed a federal lawsuit in September 2022 against all 3 officers, alleging violations of the 4th and 14th Amendments and seeking damages. While Long and her daughter admittedly sought to terminate a contract, which, again, a 9-year-old is allowed to disaffirm a contract. It's hard to imagine a worse state response to any stage of the process if both Long and Dahl agreed to terminate the contract. And Long agreed to reimburse the fair for its share of the purchase, then who was harmed? And that's the whole point of all of this. This was a civil matter, a contract dispute. And the parties to the contract were in agreement. It was just this fair. And that livestock manager, McFarland, who didn't like the fact that they didn't want to follow through on the contract. The parties were like, okay, it's fine. And they were going to get their 7%, no matter what. Nope. That goat needs to be killed. We need to kill a kid's pet to prove a point. Let me tell you something. You want to talk about using the power of the state and the power of government in an illegal way, in an improper way, to prove a point that's in violation of the law. Yeah, this is a case for it. It's not that a grand jury is indicting someone and it's not, I've also heard, they have better things to do. Don't the police have better things to do? Look, don't the police have better things to do than drive more than 500 miles to take a kid's pet so that it can be slaughtered? All right, you can see why I'm worked up. But this is all, it's civil versus criminal. Why are the police involved in this civil matter? The proper thing would have been if one of the aggrieved parties decided to file a lawsuit. That's a civil case. And what would they have gotten? Damages. Money. Now, one of the parties could have insisted on, quote, specific performance. But specific performance is really, you have to follow through exactly on the contract. It's really for very unique items and circumstances to have specific performance. If an artist takes a commission to paint a very specific painting, and they have a very specific style, and they just decide that, well, they got the money, but I don't feel like it. All right, maybe they can do it. If it's a very, say, a unique, antique, one-of-a-kind piece of furniture, and someone spent a lot of money to acquire it, and the sale went through, but now they want it. No, they want to cancel. No, I don't want to. I got the money, but I don't want to give them the furniture anymore. All right, that's a potential specific performance. But goat is just livestock to the buyer for barbecue. There's nothing unique about this goat to the buyer. It is very unique to the 9-year-old girl, EL, and that she wanted to save her pet. So specific performance is not something that's a remedy unless it was on the other side for her to get her goat back. They could have found any goat of the same weight and the meat would have been exactly the same. So, all right. So this really was the state using its authority, and it's pushing people around and using the police to enforce a contract that nobody wanted to get through. So, all right, I hope you found that information entertaining. I hope I was able to put down some legal points on civil versus criminal and the police involvement in that. It's not something that we're typically doing. We're typically talking about estate planning. But sometimes estate planning gets into specific contract items and contract law, and that might be a good future topic that this can lead into. So, as I always tell my clients, please stay safe, plan ahead, and enjoy life, and whatever you do, make it a great day.